Oh man.
My first item of value.
It's probably the warmest of all the glacial lakes. Entrenched deep within the psyche of every New Zealander is the innate desire to go to the beach and to go swimming. And the opposite of that is most people from most Asian countries absolutely despise it. They can't stand the water, they can't stand going to the beach. So what's going on here? Why the cultural difference? And why are we so keen on the water? Well, most New Zealand cities and towns are really close to a coastline. Like we're talking 75, 85, 95%, a lot. You know, we live within 45 minutes of the beach. So because we're surrounded by water, all children at school learn how to swim. At least in theory, they're supposed to anyway. Oh, flex push! So cold. It's cold. Those smart kids over there bought themselves a raft.
So quick! 5 minutes only!
So when I was a kid growing up, everyone learned to swim at school because every school had a school pool. Oh, it was a great time to grow up. The 1980s. Oh, I'm so nostalgic for it. You know, every summer, you know, sort of around September, October, they would start the school program. You know, all the kids would start learning how to swim. You had to do laps. You had to, you know, get to, you know, after you'd done like your basic swimming skills when you're, you know, very young. Then you sort of graduated and you started, you know, doing like laps and, you know, and then they, you know, you'd join a swim team if you were good and, you know, if you wanted to do that sort of thing. And then probably from about the late 1990s onwards, the government started sort of cutting money to the schools and, you know, they closed a lot of school pools. You know, the programs stopped, the pools were closed up, they just didn't have the funding to keep the pools going. A lot of pools just got filled in and finished, closed, done. The 2011 earthquakes didn't help in Canterbury either because a lot of those ones damaged the pools because a lot of the pools were just concrete lined and then they had big cracks in them. And they just never got repaired and then they got filled in and decommissioned, all that kind of thing. So it was a real shame. We've sort of, the golden age of learning to swim in New Zealand is over, but it's not gone. People still do learn to swim and they swim. Check it out. I'm strafing. Actually, that's just the current. So because we're surrounded by water, you've got to be able to swim, otherwise you're going to drown. That's just the current moving me across. And you know what? I don't want to be swept downriver. I think I'll better get back to shore. And you know, during summertime, it's a real Kiwi pastime is go to the beach, go to a river. If it's not polluted, go to a lake. If it's not polluted, and go for a swim. There's a lot of places, lakes and rivers that are not suitable for swimming because they're dirty or they're too far away or, you know, they've got moss or weeds and stuff in them. But there's a few little gems out there and it's these little gems that I'm always looking for. I love them.
So the vast majority of people can't swim in China.
Yeah.
And that is because swimming, well, there's a lot of reasons, right? Swimming, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the first thing is the way children are brought up here.
Yeah.
They're very mollycoddled.
Right.
And they're not encouraged to play outside. In fact, the grandparents and parents, so you got like 2 generations of, you know, parents basically looking after the child, and they refuse to let them play outside, climb trees. They're too afraid to let them go near water because they're afraid they're going to drown or get hurt.
Now, on the other hand, in China, you look at the geography of China, you've got a lot of coastal cities, but then you've got the psyche of the Chinese people. And the psyche of the Chinese people in this particular instance actually applies the same for Korean and Japanese. Asian people have got a real hang-up about their skin going dark.
Chinese people don't swim.
Yeah. Or even most of them can't.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really the gist of it. Correct.
And you can go to beaches with lots of people, but they're usually not swimming very deep. When I came to China, I would go to the lakes, I'd go to the rivers, I'd go to the oceans.
Yeah.
And just like today, I would get scolded, right?
Yeah.
Number two, one time I went to the lake where the water was incredibly shallow, right?
Right.
People were screaming at me. They're like, dude, get out of the water,
Yeah,
you're gonna die. Oh my God. And I was like, what are you talking about? Relax, you know?
Exactly. I'm gonna put in some footage here, and you're gonna see that, you know, if you go to the beaches here in China, when people are swimming, of course there's no one on this beach right now because
Right.
it's actually locked.
Right.
But when people do go swimming at the beach, they always use those flotation rings.
Right.
And remember, on the way here, we saw a bunch being sold
Yeah.
on the side of the road. If you go near any kind of beach or hot spring resort, you always see them selling bikinis and swimming costumes in those flotation rings.
Another one is, it's actually funny history. In 1956, Chairman Mao tried to make swimming like a national institution. So he would do these huge things where he'd swim in the rivers.
Right.
And everyone like, Mao, you're gonna die, this is so dangerous, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no, China will swim, right?
Now, as a foreigner who can swim pretty well, I find it very frustrating here, because if you do go to the beach, they don't really want you to swim outside of those little netted areas, and they don't like you to swim out far. And of course, there's reasons for this, and that is there are a lot of drownings, because, like I said before, Chinese people aren't very good at swimming.
But lastly, just going back to myself, I'm forever seeking out the endless Kiwi summer. It's hard to seek out the endless Kiwi summer when every year brings you 1 year closer to your death. I mean, we're only on this planet for 70 or 80, 90 thereabouts years before something goes wrong with you and you die. This is probably the thing that I love about New Zealand the most. There's a lot of things I like about New Zealand. I mean, the scenery is great. It's not perfect here. God knows, you know, this is the absolute nanny state. We've got laws and rules for everything.
Rules, 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 rules.
I don't really like the politics, I don't really like the politicians in this country, but yeah, can't do anything about that. But something about the water, I just don't know what it is, something about the water. In the words of my wife, Jamie, you see water and you just want to jump in. Since I started vlogging 2.5 years ago, you've seen me go for a swim a lot. And I'm not bothered by being fat and showing myself going for a swim, you know. I'm not one of the beautiful people, I know that.
It's cold. Boy, is it cold.
I'm not one of the, you know, handsome and slim and full head of hair, you know. I'm bald and fat. But I'm not going to let that stop me from showing you how much fun swimming is here. You know, if you think that it's weird or unusual that I put swimming into my videos quite often, that's because of how much fun it is here. And there's so many different opportunities, places you can go. You've seen them in a lot of my videos in the past. There's a lot of places you can go to go swimming in New Zealand. Anyway, I hope you stuck through it to the end. You've just seen a video about swimming in New Zealand and why New Zealand people love swimming and Asian people don't like swimming.
Let us know in the comments, like, can people swim in your country? Is it a thing? Maybe it's not a thing. Maybe it's like a Western thing. I don't know. Maybe all Asian people are like that. I have no idea.
He gets all the way to the end. It's just